her granddaughter Jennifer. So I'll give you guys warning, the microphones are going to shut off exactly at 12 o'clock for the bells to ring on the Angelus, just so you know. And then they'll come back on. It's a weird situation.
You planned that, didn't I look around here and I see a lot of people, and I know that every one of you, like myself, have had many conversations with our friend. And so, instead of standing here kind of repeating all the things that Michelle said already, wonderful things about our friend, I would like to have just one last conversation. Say what?
Dorothy gets her last thing.
I think I'm loud enough that you can hear me. The night before Dorothy died, I had the privilege of spending her last evening with her. Many of you know that I'm a volunteer at Seasons of Life, and she was there. David had left to go home, and I sat with Dorothy, and we had a conversation. But you know, I think just like all the conversations you had with Dorothy, there are probably things left unsaid. And so, good morning, Dorothy. It's a bright sunny day, and I know you love bright sunny days. So, a couple things I just want you to know. First of all, don't worry about Violet. Your cat is in good hands. She found a good home. The fantastic young lady that David tells me about, and so your cat is going to be just fine. Don't even worry about it. You know, Dorothy, that night before, you told me many times that you were scared. You kept saying that. You said, "I'm scared, Jim, I'm scared." And I said, "I know, Dorothy, but the gospel tells us, the scripture tells us, do not be afraid." Jesus said it, the angel said it, and I just kept telling you that. But I know you were afraid. I really do. And when I said, "Well, Dorothy, in the morning, David's going to be here, Felicia's going to be here, you're going to have a good day." And you looked at me, and you just gave me this beautiful little knowing smile. And you said, "I won't be here." And I said, "Oh, Dorothy, you're going to be here. I'll bet you $100 you're going to be here in the morning." And you said, "I won't be here." And just like you, Dorothy, at 6:30 in the morning, I received a phone call that said, "You were not here." You got it right, and I got it wrong. That was true of many of our conversations, Dorothy. and that's okay. I wanted to say thanks many times. You know, Michelle mentioned it. By the way, Michelle, it's Colombian, okay? You know, a couple of Polacks like us, Dorothy, we get it right, but, you know, we've got to cover a break. You gave me this wonderful recipe for chinina, that Polish duck soup. Boy, I've made it over and over again, and it's good, but, you know, it's just not quite as good as yours. You just had that little special something when you made it. And you know that venison sauerbraten? Oh boy, I'll tell you, Claire and I and Carolyn and Phil, you invited us over, and I knew that took something out of you because your back was hurting you. And still you made that wonderful dinner for us. Thank you for that. And again, thanks for all the wonderful music over these many, many years. That was wonderful too. And your paintings. The one I love the most is right up here in front. The one of the rooster dancing over the keys. That was always a great one. And the painting you made for my daughter, our daughter, Leah, it's hanging in her home. That wedding gift that you gave her. I really appreciated that. You did so many things like that. So, I guess, Dorothy, there's just maybe, you know, everybody that loves you is here. Even Betty and Scotty, you know, they were the last two who were able to become seasons of life that afternoon. I was so glad to see them when I answered the door and they came in and they spent some time with you. They went out of their way to spend a little time with you. And if you would, just do us all a favor, would you please? Put in a good word for us. You know, we did our best. Just tell them that. Tell them that we did our best. He already knows that we're not perfect. You know, maybe we could have visited more often, or maybe we visited not often enough, and where we stayed too long, or we didn't stay long enough. Maybe the soup had too much chicken, or the soup that I made, that Claire made, had carrots and chicken soup. I mean, who would have guessed you don't supposed to put carrots and chicken? But you set me straight. But I'm still putting carrots and chicken soup. So just put in a good word for us, would you please? We'll be along in time, but in the meantime, Dorothy, we just want you to know that we're all here because we love you. Oh, you see Bill up there? Tell him I said, hey, will you? He was a good guy, Dorothy. See you later. As you always said, you know, people are busy, they have other things to do. And you're right, and we all do. But we all took time to come here and say goodbye. We love you, Dorothy.
I'm not sure why I thought it was a good idea to go after Jim. I'm Jennifer, I'm Dorothy's granddaughter, and you know, I spent so much time up here over my childhood, many summers. That actually it was pretty awesome because a lot of those summers I got to come up by myself. So leave my pesky little brother at home, leave the parents, come up, have a ball in the Northwoods, and have my grandparents all to myself. And it was in those times that I learned so much from my grandmother. She taught me to make pierogies and spätzle and blueberry pie and my favorite Christmas cookies. And she introduced fried bologna sandwiches and kishka and so many things that to this day are some of my most favorite comfort foods. She taught me how to draw upside down and apply different watercolor and drawing techniques long before she became the chicken lady. And I especially really used to love being up here in the summers during art impressions and watching my grandmother orchestrate this big festival of art and the celebration of so many things that she loves, and sort of watching her put all of that together was really inspiring and a lot of fun. She taught me to play pinochle, and she was ruthless. She must have had 100 different home remedies for various ailments. Many of which seemed super strange. You know, got a bloody nose? Jennifer, get a paper bag and put it in your mouth. And I would look at her like she was crazy, but they always worked. And she also taught me to play the piano. I came up here and she set up lessons for me in town and would practice with me at home. I used to really love to sit next to her as she would play the organ in her house. And here at church on Saturdays, I would sit up there while she played on Saturdays, and that was really something that I loved to do as well. So my daughter was born, and a couple of days later, my grandfather died. And that was, of course, really sad for all of us. But there was a little bit of comfort in knowing that as our family lost somebody really important, we also gained somebody. So Gabriella Dorothy is now 4. And she not only carries my grandmother's name, but I also see a lot of her grandma Busha in her. From her spunkiness, her determination and strong will, and also her love of music. Gabby also really loved to sit next to Grandma Busha and watch her play the organ. And at home, she plays her tiny little piano that Grandma got her, and often will say, "Mama, take a video of me and send to Grandma Busha, she'll be proud." So though again, our family has lost another really important person, I am comforted again by the fact that there's still a little Dorothy running around. And just as we have been proud of Grandma, I think, hopefully Grandma will be proud of the traditions and the things that she has instilled in us that we will carry on. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jim. Beautiful words. And just on behalf of obviously our church here, we continue to encourage you to tell the stories and to laugh and to cry and maybe even moan and groan a little bit as we tell our memories of love of dear Dorothy. Just like to share a brief thoughts on my own. I had lots of conversations with Dorothy as well, and I felt like I was kind of often brought in to see Dorothy as like the last straw. It's kind of like, "Father, you need to talk to Dorothy." And I'm like, "Okay, here I go." And truth is I always enjoyed Dorothy's time here at church, and she always had this fantastic smile for me, and I just so enjoyed it. And I always loved, she kind of like sought me out. And as she started using a cane, it was a little more difficult for her to seek me out after Mass, but she still would, and I always get a nice, wonderful hug from her. But I remember a lot of my conversations I had with Dorothy closer to the end were conversations about surrender. And I learned really quick that Dorothy liked to be in control. And I learned that because, as was said earlier, Dorothy said what was on her heart and was on her mind. Truth is Dorothy was honest. Some of us aren't. Dorothy was honest because we all like to be in control. And so did Dorothy. No different than any one of us. And so what was a gift and a beautiful honor for me was to see this beautiful woman learning how to surrender as she grew on this last part of her journey. And it was a beautiful gift. It was a little bit challenging sometimes for us, but I know it was even more challenging for her. And I have to tell you, I saw a woman learn to surrender with tremendous grace. And so it was an honor and a gift to be part of that. And I would never ever complain about that because she allowed me a chance to share in that struggle. And I'm so grateful for that part. And it was a lot of fun. I don't think I've had a conversation about surrender at 11 p.m. in the hospital before, but that happened. And it was worth it. And so I'm grateful to be able to celebrate the gift of her life and to pray that she has abandoned everything and has flung herself in the arms of her husband and of her God. Please stand as we begin our closing prayers.